the most difficult to actually detect. That being said, Europe has a major problem in terms of a lot of fighters who have gone from Iraq and Syria and come back. That's not to say that this is the case, but clearly there is a concern there, much more frankly the United States has. I mean, the good news that as awful as it is to say this on a day like today, we are protected by two bodies of water. It is much more difficult for people in the United States to travel to Syria or Iraq and come back here. And this is why in the United States, we have much more of a problem of sort of inspired attacks versus directed. But nonetheless, there is a question of whether ISIS is behind them or if they're just, as they've done in the past, just taking credit for an attack.
And the heartbreaking human element of this, and I think actually Paul Ryan described it very well. There are a lot of kids, teenagers who went into the concert by themselves. Mom or dad are outside waiting to pick them up as the concert is letting out. They realize something has happened. They're trying to connect with their children. And I think one of the things that strikes anybody when they see this is this location was chosen because the attacker didn't have to go through security. And you can go to so many places, anywhere in America, and there are crowds of people. There just are crowds of people. You can't make everything secure, but are there ways to protect against something like this?
Look, you're absolutely right, first and foremost. I mean, as awful as it is, they choose soft targets, and soft targets tend to be exactly that. They're things filled with children, things that we would never think need this security. So, yes, the good news is, yes, there are things that we can do. And look, a lot of that is, right now, an investigation is reacting to an event. The bigger part of this is detection. And look, a lot of that, we've talked about this, whether it's counterintelligence or counterterrorism, a big part of this is technology. When we have people that are communicating and are being directed and being, given direction and from other parts, they used platforms, they use encrypted solutions. This is nothing new, and this is going to be, it's a blind spot. When you're an intelligence official, you want to be able to detect these threats, and frankly, they're using email, they're using encrypted chats, and when the intelligence folks can't see those things, they can't see the content, it is a huge blind spot.
In the meantime, I think, the comment was made